Hello and thank you for joining me in this Mind Mastery video. Today I'm going to talk about 5 ways in which we can deal with emotional dissociation or simply emotional numbness, as these terms could be used interchangeably. So whether it's emotional dissociation or emotional numbness, it's pretty much it describes one and the same thing. So first of all, in order to understand what emotional dissociation is, we know there is a similar term describing emotional detachment. So during detachment, basically we are aware of our emotions, we are aware of our feelings, but we choose to move away from them. So we choose to ignore them, we choose to don't involve them with our decisions, with our actions. So prior to dissociation, prior to numbness, we at some point we've learned to detach ourselves from our emotional world, our emotional life, right? So in short, first there is emotional detachment and then there is emotional dissociation or emotional numbness. And this later stage, this stage of dissociation, is where we can't feel anything at all, basically. So detachment is more about observing and seeing our emotions, feeling them, whereas the numbness or dissociation is cutting them off completely. So they are completely pushed towards our unconscious world. So basically, we create this gap between our mind, our cognition, and the emotional life. And the wider the gap, the more unconscious we are of our emotional life. That's in short. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down this process of dealing with emotional dissociation into 5 different steps. The first one is quite obvious as it relates to coming back to the present moment. So we need to be able to pay attention to what is happening to us within this moment at this particular time. So we need to be as precise as possible, regardless if we are dissociated or not. We need to be able to describe to ourselves or to other people what is happening in our mind. So what sort of thoughts come into our mind, what sort of things we experience in our bodies. So what can we sense, right? Is there a tension somewhere in our body, right? Is there some discomfort? We need to be as precise as possible. And this is a very crucial step because often with dissociation or emotional numbness, we kind of desensitize ourselves. We detach ourselves from this sensitivity, this inbuilt sensitivity that we all might have towards our emotions. And feelings and emotions can kind of manifest themselves in this subtle level, right? So we need to be kind of sensitive to even the slightest details that happen within us, happen on this emotional level, right? There is no need to expect that we start paying attention and suddenly there is lots of feelings coming into our awareness, although that might be the case at some point. But at first, I think it's important to kind of remain sensitive and open-minded towards even the slightest changes in our body, in our mind. So observing what is happening is a crucial step. Without judgment, without acting on every single thought that comes into our mind. Essentially, it's kind of connected to meditation and mindfulness, although you don't have to practice meditation or practice mindfulness in order to learn it. You simply stay present and observe what is happening and describe to yourself what is happening to you. Now, the second step is about building the habit. So you need to commit to at least 10 minutes a day to sit down with yourself and and describe what is happening, right? So again, pay attention to your body, to your mind, to your feelings, whatever sensation comes in. Even if you do feel dissociated, describe the state. What does it feel like to be numb, to be dissociated, to not have any emotions, right? Be as precise as you can and build a habit. Commit you to paying attention as much as you can every single day to what is happening, right? Now, the next step involves, again, being sensitive to even the smallest changes that occur on this emotional level. So even if you feel a little change, what does it feel like? Can you describe it, right? And the moment you do it, the moment you discover that there is something happening on this emotional level, try to follow the trail, right? So at first you might feel like, all right, maybe I'm a little bit irritated, maybe I'm a little bit sad, maybe I'm a little bit happy. Again, describe this emotion to yourself, describe this feeling, stay with this feeling and observe it without acting on it, and then follow the trail. So what I mean by following the trail is basically following the thoughts that are associated with these emotions. So observe again on this mental level what sort of thoughts come into your mind, what sort of judgments, what sort of motivations there are, right? So what does this emotion want you to do? What does it motivate you to do? What sort of action do you feel like you want to take after staying with that particular feeling or emotion? And the next step is based basically on previous steps, right? So the more you do it, the more intense emotions you're going to discover. The level of difficulty is going to basically increase. The more present you are with what is happening with your body, with your emotional level. So again, stay with the feeling, stay with the emotion, and don't judge it. Try to understand it, right? Where is it coming from? What does it tell you about your experience? What does it tell you about people around you? What does it tell you about the reality around you? So again, no judgment, no evaluation. It's just your emotion. It's just an information. But try to listen to it. Try to, again, observe different sensations, different thoughts, different motivations that are happening on your mental or physical level. And I think that at this point it's quite important to stay safe. So make yourself feel safe, make yourself feel comfortable so that you're not distracted, you're not pushed, you're not pressured to do something, to move forward, to, leave the emotion behind and do something else, right? You need to stay present. You need to take as much time as necessary, right? To process these emotions, to process these feelings. And, it might take minutes, it might take hours, it might take days. But, whatever it takes, the most important thing is to stay present with that emotion, because the moment you judge it, the moment you try to run away, you're going to go back to your old habit of dissociation and numbness and detachment, where you lose the connection and you increase the gap between your mind and your emotional state, which kind of leads us to the final step of this process of dealing with emotional numbness, which is about being mindful of your motivation to run away from the emotion, to rationalize the emotion, to distract yourself, to dissociate, to judge yourself for feeling in a particular way. You need to be mindful of this old habit of dissociation that will be present in your mind throughout this whole process. So, for example, you might start feeling impatient. You might want to get rid of feeling. You might want to move on, right? You might want to do something to feel differently. But that's not going to help you. That's going to reinforce the old habit of detachment and dissociation. So you need to be mindful of these obstacles that might come in your way and prevent you from staying present with a particular feeling or emotion. Now, once you kind of build a habit of this process, I think it's quite useful to take a step back and look at the whole bigger picture, right? So what is the pattern? For example, now, if you're feeling numb or dissociated, or if there's excess of emotions in you, it's quite useful to look into your past. So where are these feelings are coming from or not coming from, right? What happened within the past week? What happened within the past month that might provoke certain feelings, but now you don't experience them, or you experience them in excess, right? So it's kind of seeing the bigger picture, seeing the pattern in which you might be engaged in that promotes dissociation, promotes numbness, promotes detachment, right? So again, it's following the trails of each emotion. Even if you feel just a little bit of something, try to understand where this feeling is coming from and link it to a specific event in your past, right? So you need to understand why you're reacting that way, and you need to accept that this is a valid feeling, because feelings don't lie. Feelings are actually quite objective forms of information because they are connected to our emotional reactions. We don't, pause and make ourselves feel in a particular way. Although our feelings and emotions might be a result of, past conditioning in our value system, but essentially they are a form of information that tell us something about ourselves, but most importantly about how we perceive a certain event in our reality. So ideally, if we are authentic and if we are balanced and if we are connected with our instincts, our feelings and emotions should be able to tell us what is safe, what is not safe, whether to trust someone, whether something is the right thing to do, whether it's right for our development, whether we are interested in that, and so on and so forth. So again, feelings are the form of information that are quite useful to our personal development. And I think that essentially having the skill of emotional detachment can be quite helpful in connecting with our feelings, because when we are detached from our feelings, we can still perceive them. So when we do our emotional maintenance routine, right, we can use emotional detachment to perceive what is happening to our emotional level without reacting to these emotions, without reacting to these feelings, right? So it's kind of managing this gap between our cognitive level and emotional level, where we keep this gap small enough and big enough at the same time without losing the connection between our mind and our emotional body. And lastly, again, it's important to be prepared to spend as much time as possible to process these feelings and emotions, to stay connected with this emotional level. And, it's not going to be easy on the beginning, but the more we do it, the more we simply stay present and observe ourselves, the easier it's going to become. So making it a habit is an important element of connecting with our feelings and emotions. If you like more tips like this on how to address the emotional dissociation and numbness, you can still sign up for my Awareness and Dissociation workshop. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.